Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the main theme is Yajna. In fact, that's the main theme of the entire spiritual education, right? It's personified in that ritual of fire sacrifice. The whole spiritual growth of a human being rests on the capacity to sacrifice. So that was 25 to 30. What he talked about is how you can convert every aspect of your life into a worship. So that's what we need to do if you want to grow spiritually. If you don't do that, any effort you put gets negated by your unintelligent attachment and involvement in the world. So you won't get anywhere. So it has to be a constant awareness. Is this taking me to the higher? I do it. If not, I discard it. That has to be the attitude. That is yajna. Yajna is sacrificing the individuality, the ego, the selfishness to ultimately gain the totality, become the self, Brahman, God. So 31, which we completed last time, he says, eaters of the nectar, the remnant of sacrifice, go to the eternal Brahman. So a person whose focus is on sacrifice, he finds supreme satisfaction in doing what he ought to do in life. And as a result of that, the nectar, your mind is peaceful. And since your mind is peaceful, you are able to function effectively in the world. So that's what he says. This world is not for the non-sacrificer. In other words, if you are selfish, you cannot enjoy this world. Impossible. You will forever be agitated no matter what you have. Because you're selfish. The mind will constantly be riddled with craving for more and more. So this world is not for you. That's what he says. Forget about enlightenment. That's out of question. But if you sacrifice, if you learn to give up this ego, this selfishness, this world is blissful, peaceful, successful. And you will move towards enlightenment, the other, what is beyond this world, the self. So what else do you want? So there was a king, and he had a set of faithful companions, come servants, sort of assistants from his childhood. He was brought up in luxury. And he became king at a young age. Father died and he was crowned king. So he called all his, uh, help and friends. They had become friends by then, although they were actually his help. They were his assistants. And said, look, I've been with you all my life and I've never had a chance to do anything. Now I've become king. I can do whatever I want. So each one of you can ask me anything, one thing, and I'll give it to you. So one fellow said, really? I want a big house. Okay, no problem. I want, I don't know, 10 acres of farm. Okay, okay. All these things he gave. Last was his a female companion he had. Young girl who was helping him since he grew up. He says, you've not asked anything. What do you want? She says, I want to marry you. He couldn't say no because he said anything. He was unmarried. So what happened? One shot. Not only did she get him all that belongs to him. So that is what he's saying. You must be wise. You must choose the self. One shot, you get everything. But you're like those others. I want a house, big house. I want a few more years to live. I want this, I want that. Nothing will happen. Very, very limited. So you don't know what to choose in this world. That's the problem. Your own self, which is the King of Kings, the ultimate reality, the supreme bliss, you don't choose that. You run after its shadows. These are just shadows. It's an illusion. So that's what he says. This world is not for such small-minded people. What are you? So constant stress and bitterness, bickering going on in this world. All small-minded. Nobody sees the big picture in anything. So 32, which we read out, right? So he says, thus manifold sacrifices are spread out before Brahman. Know them all to be born of action. Thus knowing, you shall be liberated. So he says, all these sacrifices means the various types of selfless activities you can do in this world, which he gave in detail in 25 to 30. All of them are born of action. Knowing thus, you will be liberated. So what's the implication here? First of all, I briefly mentioned last time. Can anybody tell me? So there is this actions, and out of actions there are sacrificial actions. Knowing thus you shall be liberated means what? What's the implication? Yes, Shalini.
We must focus on the action.
You must focus on the action. Yes. But he's talking about here there are all these actions and then there are sacrificial actions. Knowing thus you shall be liberated. What's the implication?
Choose either the selfish action or you can choose the sacrifice.
Yes, knowing thus means you have the choice. There are so many actions you can choose. The best of those actions are sacrificial actions, actions dedicated to a higher purpose. Now, if you look at the world, what is everybody choosing? Everybody is choosing actions which are purely selfish, me and my family. They don't choose the right course of action. That's what he's saying here. knowing thus. Therefore, this knowledge has to be attained. Only when you understand this knowledge can you understand what actions to choose. So the world is steeped in ignorance. See, go back to the title of this chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. With knowledge, you have to choose the action. That leads to renunciation. But there's no knowledge. What is a child taught? I've told you. The biggest problem with the education is it is built on it in selfishness. It teaches, the whole teaching of society is try and get the maximum qualification so you can extract maximum from the world. Basically, that's what it boils down to for you and your family. What knowledge? What have you done all your life? What degree? Huh? A bunch of degree. We went to the best institution just to learn how to extract more for yourself and your children. Nothing else you do. Everybody. So first thing in education should be gain the degree, act, produce. But the goal should be how can you be of service to others? It's not known at all. So therefore, everybody is bound, caught up, attached, involved, imprisoned, dependent, whatever you want to call it. Thus knowing you shall be liberated. So you got to choose the right action, number one. Number two, you have to keep a constant focus on that. That is yajna. The choice of action and the consistency to maintain the right choice. It's not just choosing the action. Yes, 1 minute in a day I do yajna. Rest thousands of minutes is selfish. It's not going to work. It's the right choice and consistency. That is the way to final liberation. So right now we are bound, imprisoned by the mind, because no matter what you attain, the mind craves for more, and that disturbs you. So you're a prisoner of your own mind. Not only do you crave for what you don't have, you get attached to what you have, which creates fear of losing it. So no matter if you get something or don't get it, you're imprisoned. This is the reality. Everybody. Who's free? Free from any worry, any anxiety, any want. That is freedom. Ultimately, you're bound by this existence itself, which is a death bound, disease, decay, and death. So you're imprisoned by the mind and sooner or later by your body. This is it. You can't understand. Nobody can understand. So strive for liberation. That should be the goal.
It says in the first line, Gautam, because manifold sacrifices are spread out before Brahman. So it is simply meaning they are supported by Brahman?
Yes, manifold sacrifices are spread out before Brahman is a poetic way of saying the sacrifices is what leads you to Brahman. Brahman enlivens all actions, including even selfish actions. So you could say it means Brahman enlivens all sacrifices. It's true. But the implication is sacrifices are spread out before Brahman. That's the way to Brahman, to divinity. Correct? Chitra?
Gautam, we started the class with summarizing yajnas as worship. Could you please differentiate that worship vis-a-vis bhakti yoga as related to awareness. I'm a little confused between that. That worship, bhakti yoga, and worship being awareness.
Worship is awareness. Worship means awareness of the reality. When you use your intellect to be aware of the reality, study and reflection, that's called jnana yoga. When you use your emotions to be aware, it's called bhakti, devotion. And when you use your actions to maintain that awareness, it's called karma, karma yoga, the path of action. All three are worship. Why are you restricting worship only to devotion? So your whole life has to be a worship. It's not a part-time, you go once in a week to a place of worship. That is not worship.
So yajna is a combination of all three, the action.
Yajna is how you're supposed to do all three. If you are doing them selfishly, it is not yajna. The yajna is the principle behind them.
Okay.
When you are aware of the higher, the lower is being sacrificed. That is yajna, the principle. So it's understood. 33.
ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते.
The sacrifice of wisdom, jnana yajna, is superior to the sacrifice of wealth, dravya yajna, or parantapa. All actions without exception, O Partha, culminate in wisdom. So go back to verse 28. He's referring to that, where we did the grades of sacrifice, right? The lowest kind of sacrifice is dravya, wealth, where you have an excess and you part with it. So actually, you're not really going through any effort. You're giving what you don't need. It is a giving, no doubt. People don't even do that. It's so gross. But spiritually speaking, it's a very low level. Because you don't need it, you're giving. So that's why he says tapo yajna is superior. When you give something which you want, so you're going through an effort. You have 100 loaves of bread, I give you one. I have 100 loaves, I give you one. What is the big deal? I'm still eating. I have one loaf, I give you half. You understand? That is superior. Because I am going through hunger to give you, to feed you. Far superior. And then we went through the grades, right? Giving a person knowledge, even more superior. But the highest gift, he says, this is what he means here, the sacrifice of wisdom. Everything you give in this world is limited. The self is infinite. It makes a person infinite bliss, immortal, permanently. So it's the highest gift that can be given. Which of course he said, first you have to get it to give it, right? So what he's trying to say is, keep trying to move your giving to a higher level. So you're helping in a superior way with the same effort. But he gives a provision, even if you can't step up, as long as you're sacrificial genuinely, it will culminate in wisdom. So don't worry about what you can do, how much you can do, what effect you're having. What it is important is, are you genuinely interested in your growth? Are you putting in the effort to sacrifice whatever you can? That will help you. So, see, like Sudama went to see Krishna, they were childhood friends. And he was so poor. First of all, he didn't want to go. But you know what happens. You understood, right? Wife was the problem. Huh? You fellow, you are so poor. We are so poor. And your friend, you got Krishna. He is a king. He is so rich. And what, you can't just go and ask him. He says, my friend, how can I ask him for money? Sudama didn't want anything. He was in his own bliss. But what to do? He got married, no. So finally he had to. And he had her make, he said, I'm going to him, at least I have to give him something. So he made some poha. Poha is a simple rice dish. Very, very simple, very basic. Just plain rice and some spices. So he says, yeah, Krishna likes that you make. That we have to take something. So he went there. And 3 days he spent with Krishna. He was so happy. First of all, he forgot to ask. Can you believe? What he went there, he forgot. Have you ever heard anything like that? This is his state. He was a saint, great saint. And in the end, Krishna said, what is that? He said, poha. And, oh, you remembered. And he took it and he was so happy. And he left. Sudama left. And the story is he went back and his whole house had become a palace. It's all a story. You give little poha, nothing will happen. I can also try. I don't want to give anything anyway. Poha I can manage. So, what it means is it's the feeling behind it. Right? It's not what he gave. The fact that he didn't have anything, he's going to ask, but he still thought, I must give something. So where are these people and where are these fellows? Where is the world? There's no connection. Even what you should do, which you're supposed to do, you don't do. Forget about giving more than what you should. Fellows come here as immigrants with nothing. And this country is giving you the opportunity to earn. And their whole focus is how to avoid taxes. It's incredible. Ingratitude, selfishness, whole thing, how to extract more. So you come somewhere because you want money. You stay in a country which provides you money, and then you want to not do your obligations to that or that. I mean, I can't even, it's inconceivable. Ingratitude. In fact, I've told you, gratitude, you're not really doing anything. In gratitude, you're only repaying what you've got. So actually, it's not giving. It's not even unselfish. It's the lowest form of giving, is gratitude. Because you're repaying. Giving is when you give something without getting something. That is true giving. So, if you can't even repay, how can you ever give? So that's what Cicero says, the great philosopher in ancient Rome. He said, gratitude is not just the greatest of all virtues. It's the mother of all the rest. Remember that. Gratitude is not just the greatest of all virtues. It's the mother of all the rest. What he's trying to say is, if you can't even be grateful, how can you have any other virtue? It's the first virtue. So so gratitude is not yajna. I'm going off the scope of the verse here, but you must understand the realities of life. So first comes gratitude, then comes giving. The highest form of giving is giving the self. So at least scan your life for where you are taking. First repay your debts, then let's talk about giving. Everything. You have to look at it that way. So these are the actions that culminate in enlightenment. That's what he's saying. So you got to start in your own small way. That's how I started this, right? Sudama, he was not indebted to Krishna for anything. But he said, he's my friend, I must take something. I'm going to his house. So that you got to start with that's why I went off track. Where do you start? That was the question, right? This is where you start. Where have I taken? Then what is my obligation? You can do that. You don't need this knowledge, trust me. You're living it. And if you're getting this knowledge without looking into these areas of life, gratitude, service, sacrifice, there's no point. You're wasting your time. Which most people are. Only a few of you who will be impacted, who want to put in that effort. What?
When it says culminate in wisdom, what does it mean by wisdom?
Culminate in wisdom means spiritual growth. See, the 100% wisdom is enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
So you are wise to the extent you've evolved spiritually, right? So he's saying, how do you get to spiritual growth is through sacrificial action. That's all. So relative and absolute. So whatever you try and you can do, start with that and keep growing higher. In fact, the more knowledge you get, the more you will be able to sacrifice. The more you'll it's an attitude. Again, it's not writing checks or giving things or impressing people. It is that internal attitude. Where am I being selfish? Where can I knock it off? That's the main thing. You get it? See, the other day I was in the grocery line and I had maybe one or two things, just in my hand. I didn't even have a cart. Just went to pick up something. And there was this lady with a huge cart. And we got there almost same time. She got there maybe few seconds before me. And she said, please go. Because I have so much. You will be done in half a minute. See, this is what I mean. Yajna. It's a yajna in a small way. What is the point of reading Gita? What are you doing in your life? Let the fellow go. Nothing will happen. You can't. It's not possible. It cannot happen. So that awareness is yajna. That little control. you go. After you. It starts from that. That's what I'm trying to say is all actions culminate in wisdom. He's saying it could be a small action like that. You take it all the way, you'll get enlightenment. You could read all these books, nothing is going to happen. Nothing means nothing. You may master all this. If it's not reflecting in your life, so my guru is a policy not to take discount. Policy. Any fellow would ask for discount, you had it. And even if we used to go and when we were kids, Swamiji, when we were working there, I used to do the landscaping and all. Swamiji, you know that landscaping guy who sells the plants, because we are buying 100, he said he'll give us for less price. So he says, really? You call him. And that fellow, poor fellow from the village, just started a nursery or something. And Swamiji, first of all, they don't know what to talk in front of him. So, how much is this plant? He says, Swamiji, is 20 rupees for a sapling. Ashram knows one. And such a nice boy you have here. He came to me and all that. So, 15 I'm giving. 15? 15 you're charging. That fellow got okay, 12 and a half is okay. They're desperate for business. 12 and a half. He says, no, 30. Now that fellow is fully confused. Because he thought he was prepared for 10. Honestly, inside he's prepared. So 30 is okay. See, he didn't understand what I didn't understand, he didn't understand. That was the first lesson. 30 we gave him. And those days we were really short on funds in the ashram. In fact, it was a wilderness, all weeds. I was the first person in the sense that was my karma to convert the jungle into something sensible. It was actually snakes and scorpions and all. There were more of them than us. So, I'm talking 30 years ago. So what you see now, it's not what it was then. So many of you have been there. So what are you talking? A beautiful place. Facilities are amazing. So, fellow is in the village. How much? 10 rupees is, what is 10 rupees? Cents? Somebody 10, 12 cents. Right? 12 cents for a plant. And that also you want, why don't you reduce 2 cents? Can you believe what kind of a... So I've seen fellows get off their Mercedes cars in India. In India, to have a Mercedes means you're really wealthy. Because it costs double than it does here. You know that? It's 100% duty. So it costs double in India. So imagine what money you have to have. So those fellows, they'll get off the car, Christina, to the vendor on the side of the road. The fellow is selling for 10 rupees some 1 kilo of I don't know what. Bhindi. The bhindi is what? Okra. Okra, okra. Lovely okra you get. And for that 10 rupees, they said, no, make it 8 rupees. What kind of... So, how can it grow? Impossible. Okay. Don't care about the person. So even if you want to do good to the world, we need Vedanta. Because Vedanta teaches you to be selfless. That's what the world needs. Forget about spiritual growth. What did Victor Hugo say? There's always more misery in the lower classes than there is humanity in the higher. You understand? There's always more misery in the lower, then there is humanity in the higher. So it's not the lack of wealth, it's the lack of humanity. So what does Vedanta do? Vedanta restores humanity to humans. Now you're not human. Can't even say animal, because animals are at least disciplined. They're doing what they should be doing. So let's not degrade them by calling them humans. Yes, ahimsa.
Gautamji, so you mentioned earlier about gratitude is basically repaying what we already have. The if we go by that, that I don't even know if there's time to give because we have so much. Even if you wake up and you can see, you're in a bed, you have water. Like there's so many things to be grateful for that if once we get through that list of repaying, it might take lifetimes before we can even start to give.
Yes, you're right. You can never repay. Have you ever paid your oxygen bill?
Never.
You can't. What are you talking? You're right. So that's why we said it's an attitude. It's an attitude that you should have of repayment. It doesn't matter what you do. And wherever you can do, you should. So once you have the attitude, wherever it can manifest reasonably to your capacity, obviously you will do. Right? So that's why I told you it's not the action, it's the intention, which is the main thing. Where are your thoughts? Like you said, you wake up in the morning, you must be grateful. There are people who don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have shelter, right? All over the world. So, wherever you can, you have to repay. But obviously, you can't because you've taken too much. All of us taken too much. Like I just said, can you repay your oxygen bill? But you can be aware, I should not take more from this earth than I need to, unnecessary. Wherever I can protect it, I should. Whatever that feeling should be there.
So it's with that attitude then, Gautamji, that I'm grateful for all the things that I have. I work to repay them, not physically, but with my intention. And then whenever the opportunity arises to give, I simply give. It seems so simple, right? Like it doesn't seem like it's that complicated. So I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know if it just...
No, it's not complicated, but it's the question of doing what you ought to do when it should be done. Because your selfishness will impede you. What is the mind? The mind is nothing but this flow of thought. What can I grab from the world? So when you should be doing something selfless, your mind will impede you. That's the time you have to put that aside and do what ought to be done. That is the test. It's not just thinking, now from today I'll do. When the actual situation comes, you won't do. Because your selfishness will impede you. You get it? So that's the time to put in the effort. The parents have brought you up for decades till you are invalid. And when they are invalid, then you just, I don't care, it's inconvenient. So when you must have that feeling. And when they need that help from you, you'll be obviously happy to serve. So as long as you're aware of wherever you have taken and that attitude is there, it will manifest. And it's not as simple as it seems. Because when it's supposed to be done, your selfishness will impede you. So that's the time you got to put this into practice. You don't want to give a tip that time. Why should I give so? That's the time. Fellow is working hard, can easily afford it. What's the big deal? Let him have a little more. That's why I'm spending so much time on this is I have told you, all this knowledge will not help you if you don't look into these little actions you're doing every day. Trust me, it will not. You may just be satisfied that you've learned this highest knowledge, but nothing's going to happen. Every day, what is your attitude? What are you aware of, not aware of? So I look into these. I have this iPad, for example, for the lectures only. That's what I use it for. And few years ago, the thought came to me. We have it here. Now, there are my colleagues at the academy who've also been studying for years and serving over there, but they don't have the facilities. So that thought should come. That's all I'm saying. You may not be able to do. Fortunately, we can, so we do. Whatever we can do from here. Now they have facilities, deserving ones, they need an iPad or a laptop for their work or a phone. It's not cheap there compared to what the facilities are. So they're provided. Thought should be there. So in your own way, everybody has to have. There's no thought. I've got it. So okay, my children have it. Maximum. Children is just an extension of you. There's nothing selfless about it. I selflessly serve my children. I've heard lectures on that also. What do you don't know what your child means? It's an extension of you. Making the child happy is making yourself happy. It's nothing else. It's just an extension of your ego. That is the relationship. Tomorrow you came to know that child was exchanged at the cradle, what will happen? You will run to the other end of the world where that child is. This is not mine. It's all centered around that I. So, to sacrifice beyond that is Vedanta. All actions. Every day. It means every day. That culminates in wisdom. Not sitting here for this lecture. Of course, this is important. You need to gain the knowledge, but it's not just this. Clear? Chitra?
Gautamji, you just said that children are extensions of us, right? So in the past, when we on this note, you have also said serve your family selflessly, and I had not grasped at the time why you were saying that. Is that connected to? How is that connected to what you just said? Because it sounds like everyone wants to serve their family.
Yeah. So the thing is, you have a family, you have children. So you can't disregard that obligation. No doubt you got into a relationship and you had children for your own personal reasons. There's nothing unselfish about it. That's all I said. Right? You want your own emotional satisfaction, which is why you had. It's as simple as that. Whatever need was there, you fulfilled it. But having created that unit, right? You produce the child, you have an obligation to that child. So, exactly what you're asking. So, how do you convert that obligation into a selfless action, which will help you grow? Most people get attached and it pulls them down. So, the Vedanta says, do that obligation in a spirit of service. What is best for them? What is my obligation? That will help you grow. You don't have to leave the family because everybody gets afraid, terrified. Oh, Vedanta, I have to leave everything, take sannyas. Whole Indians all believe that as a rule. They'll run if they hear the word Gita also. Run for their life. Because they believe it will tell them to drop their family. That's what they're terrified of. Vedanta is not saying that. But you are now serving out of attachment. So my husband does for me, I do for my husband. My children should do what makes me happy. They study this and get A, I'll be happy. No. What is the best for them? What is my duty as a parent, my duty as a husband, as a child? One-sided, with no expectation. That is how you convert even a family obligation into worship. Having no expectations, just doing it one-sidedly. What do I ought to do? That's it. That will lead to enlightenment. So it doesn't matter what you do. That's what I was trying to say. It's how you do it. Right? So the whole section on yajna was that. How do you convert every aspect of life to a worship? So even you pray before a meal, you're eating something. This body has to be sustained for enlightenment. So the act of eating can also be converted to a worship. Forget about family, anything, right? Exercising in the morning, yes, exercise, body has to be kept fit. Otherwise, how can I grow spiritually? Worship becomes a selfless action. And you could be lecturing on this knowledge to thousands of people, purely selfish. What can I get out of these people? That's a selfish action. Outside action is to give lecturing on this. That is purely selfish. So what is selfish? Is this selfish or is act of eating selfish? It's all how you do it, right?
Gautamji, you've talked about those concentric circles of development. The fact that I can't even function selflessly or in an obligatory way to my own family means that we just have so much more to grow and so much more to learn and grow.
We talked about those circles, right? You, your family, community, country, humanity, the self. Correct? So what you're saying is even in my family, I find it difficult to function selflessly. So is it difficult to grow?
Does it mean I have such a huge distance yet to grow because I'm still...
See, it's not to do with the family. The difficulty is to function selflessly, period. It's not that because you're not functioning selflessly with your family. See, that is the area where the expectation is the most. So you find it most difficult to be selfless. It's the opposite. You may be able to serve your country selflessly. Your family you may not be able to serve because that's the area of your weakness. You understand? So, what impedes your ability to be selfless is where your selfishness is. In that area, you will find it most difficult, right? And where is our selfishness maximum? My spouse, my children, right? That is why you're constantly fighting with the spouse, constantly fighting with the children. Why? Because those areas you have maximum expectation. If you don't have expectation, will you fight? Let the fellow do what he wants. Why are you fighting? You won't fight. You have expectation. No, you do this. Same thing with children. So maximum attachment, maximum fighting. How can you think of selflessness, right? So you try and be as selfless as you can, whatever aspect inspires you. And slowly it will grow. Of course, along with the knowledge. That's the most important thing. If you don't gain knowledge, it will not sustain. Got it? So because I can't be selfless, the family forget Vedanta. What she wants to do. Wants an excuse to get away. It's not that easy.
Forget community.
So it's nothing that. There are people who've been completely selfless with their country, great freedom fighter. Family life has been a disaster. You understand? So it's not that. It's interesting. The questions you ask very interesting, but it's not that. We believe that, but it's not that.
Then what is the meaning of those concentric circles?
Meaning of those circles is, to the extent you're selfish, you'll find it difficult to conceive of a goal too high. You understand? It depends on the level of your selfishness, not where your selfishness is currently stuck on. Two different things. There's a subtle difference. It's how selfish you are, not where your selfishness is currently focused. So if you are, for example, a mineral person who's so selfish that he can't even think of his family, what do we tell him? At least think of your family, not yourself, right? Like a person who's so selfish that he gets his paycheck, he goes to the casino, blows it up, and his own children are starving. Such a person is the lowest level of evolution, where he can't even think of his family. So for such a person, what's a selfless action? At least serve your children. 99% of people are already serving the children. So they can think of a community or country, right? But still, but whatever selfishness they have, it's still focused on the children. So they'll find it difficult to be there, but they'll be able to serve the community. Outside the house, they're very good, very sacrificial. Inside the house, they become demons suddenly. I don't know. Want me to ask your children? Outside the house, she's so good with all of you. She's going for volunteer work and all that. And inside the house, what is she doing with us? They'll ask that. But that's why your selfishness is stuck. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Maximum expectation, maximum problem. So you know what's the best way to make people laugh? And we're talking in a big corporate audience or here, is to give a joke on husband wife. All laugh. Because all are in a problem. You understand? So they all laugh. Like one fellow recently told me a joke, I'll tell you. He said one fellow's wife was giving him a massage, head massage. And he said, "Oh, what a lovely massage, my whole headache is gone." So the wife said, "Before we were married, who gave you a massage? Nobody was there to give you a massage. Then what did you do with your headaches then?" Before marriage, there was no headache also, no? You understand? Correct, no? Huh? Where is the need for massage? So, see, all of you laughing. Why laughing? Because maximum expectation is your spouse. So maximum friction. Because no two people are the same. So how can you say you do this, another person says you do this? You have to leave them alone. No two people are the same. First lesson of a relationship. So if you want any harmony in a relationship, learn to leave them alone. You don't own them. Just because you're married to them. Your children are from you, not of you. You're just a means to get them in the world. You understand? It doesn't mean you own them. So, that's the problem. My children mean they should do what I want. Finish, gone. Constant fighting. Minute you leave them alone, they come to you. Try it. Genuinely, you don't want to tell them what to do. They will ask you what I should do. So many people have tried this. You know that? They say it worked like a miracle. Just a week I didn't call and I didn't ask them what they were doing, and they said, "Don't you want to know what I was doing? You haven't called for a week." I don't want to know. Then they'll tell you, "You know what I was doing?" It's reverse psychology. So 34, which is another fabulous verse, he talks about how to gain the knowledge. One of the great verses from the Gita. Who is an ideal student? And those of you who are not attending the Vedanta class on Saturdays, you must have got the email. We started this very interesting portion on law of causation, the law of karma. It talks of birth and death, destiny, free will, all these great concepts which need clarity. So it's a good time to begin the study of the Vedanta treatise as well, the Saturday sessions. So Gita on Sundays and Vedanta on Saturdays is ideal. Right. And of course, we meet on Wednesday. If you have any questions, you can always send them in and I answer them in the Q&A session. Right. So that's when we'll meet next. Hari Om. Thank you.